So do you want to call it? I have 2 o'clock. Do you want to call me? Okay. I will call to order the Tuesday, July 16, 2024 meeting of the Rhode Island Board of Elections to order. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Vice Chairman Steve Bone,
Present.
Member Bettinger,
Here.
Member Connors,
Present.
Member Jack Boney,
Present.
Member Maderas, Member Scholes, Chairwoman Johnson, Executive Director Miguel Nunez,
Present.
Legal Counsel Ray Garcia.
Present.
Thank you. Thank you.
The first matter on the board's agenda is that the board may discuss and vote to approve the minutes of the meeting of June 12, 2024. Is there any discussion or is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 2, the board may discuss and vote to certify the LNA testing for the Gloucester special referendum to be held on Tuesday, August 6, 2024. And I will turn it over to the Director, Nunez.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Logic and accuracy testing for both the early voting and election day voting equipment for the August 6th Gloucester special referendum began last Tuesday, July 9th at 10 a.m. and concluded the morning of the same day. The testing was open to the public. 1 ES&S and 2 Board of Election staff were involved in this testing. To small elections, so 2 DS200s and 1 express vote were tested for the polling place, and 2 DS200s and 1 express vote unit were tested for the early voting period. Additionally, 2 DS850 high-speed tabulators for mail ballots were also part of this testing, for a total of 8 machines that were part of the testing for this election. The test deck consisted of 7 ballots per DS200. 2 of these ballots were express vote cards. 140 ballots were scanned through the high-speed tabulators as well, for a total of 168 test ballots being utilized for this session. No equipment was replaced during the conduct of the testing. Additionally, the Secretary of State's Election Division conducted a review of the express vote ballot information, and on July 17th, certified to us that this information was correct per the existing BOE protocol. Before, as I've mentioned previously, before each one of these machines is closed, locked, and sealed, at least 2 members of our staff visually confirm that the totals report printed by each machine matches the expected results on the results key, which you have before you, and that the machine has been reset to 0 votes. Our election management system is also reset to 0, as is reflected on the following reports before you. As required, ES&S has provided us with the 3 reports for testing. You should have the first report was the pre-zero report printed prior to testing. The second report is the LNA results report, which shows the test results, which have been compared to the key on the voting results report, which shows what the results should be. These results match. The third report is the logic and accuracy testing post-zero report that shows that each machine and the election management system have been reset to 0, and they are now ready for operation on election day in early voting. The staff delivered the voting equipment and supplies for early voting to Gloucester Town Hall today, and early voting begins tomorrow. Staff will deliver the polling place equipment on Monday, August 5th, and pickup will be the day after the election. At this time, if the board has no questions, I ask that you certify the voting equipment for the Gloucester special referendum to be held on August 6th.
I'll make the motion to certify the LNA testing for the Gloucester special referendum.
Second.
There is a motion and second. Any discussion? There being none, I will call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The third item is that the board may discuss and vote to approve the risk limiting audit rule and regulation, item 410 RICR 20-00-28. And I will turn that over to either the director or Mr. Macascio. I don't know
It'll be Miguel.
Okay.
Mhm.
Director Newby.
Honorable members of the board, before you today are the final proposed rules and regulations for the risk limiting audits, or RLA. At the board meeting held on May 7th to receive public comment on these regulations, and with the recommendation from the staff, the board voted to accept the changes proposed in a letter submitted by Common Cause and verified voting. The staff has made all of the recommended changes to the proposed regulation and is presenting it to you today for your final approval. If approved, this regulation will be implemented during the RLA to be conducted after the November 5th general election. I am happy to answer any questions for the board, and I believe John Marion from Common Cause is here as well to make some comments.
If I may, so Director, what I've noticed in the section provided to us is the changes that are highlighted in blue. Most of them deal with, and I don't know if this was just a correction or this was something that was sort of left out the first time, but Board of Elections staff is to assign the parties and essentially what you would normally do. And is that just a clarification that's to put staff in?
That was part of the staff's suggestion in our discussions with Common Cause and verified voting, that it be more delineated when the board actually has to meet and make a decision on certain items and when the staff would be expected to do that. So those have been more clearly defined with these changes.
And is there anything here, any suggestions that you've accepted that you feel will overly burden the staff or anything of that nature? Or do you think that they're all of the suggestions are pretty much apropos?
Correct. We agree with all of the changes in here and all the changes that were submitted by Common Cause and verified voting, and we have no problem with any of the changes in here.
And Ray, I'm assuming you took a look at this and you don't have any issues with it?
I did. At least a month ago, I recall reviewing the last draft and having no concerns or edits.
Any other questions or concerns? No. If not, then we'll hear from Mr. Marion.
Great. Thank you.
You're getting good at
Yep.
that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm getting better. The State House has button up. You guys have light as green, but thank you for indulging me. And I apologize for the Academy Award speech I'm about to give, but this began more than a decade ago. I went to a conference about risk limiting audits, came back to Rhode Island, asked your then executive director, Mr. Kando, if you conducted any post-election audits, and found out that Rhode Island was in a minority of states that didn't conduct post-election audits. So I asked Pam Smith, who none of you have probably ever met, but she's the actual president of Verified Voting, the organization Mark Lindemann's a part of. And she generously drafted some language to have pilot risk limiting audits, allow them. And Steve Brown allowed us to put that in a bill that the ACLU had that had a number of election reforms. That bill kind of languished, as many bills do, but then in 2017, it got some traction, and we pulled it out and made it a standalone bill and converted it from pilots to actual required audits. And I worked with Miguel and your former director, Bob Raposa, to craft some amendments to really make it work for Rhode Island's needs. And then the board voted to get behind the bill. In the Secretary of State's office, including, Rob Rock, and then Secretary Gorbea got behind it as well. And it passed in 2017. And then it had to get implemented, right? And fortunately, some folks in Colorado, especially a guy named Dwight Shellman, who works for the Colorado Secretary of State, arranged for myself and Rob and Bob and Miguel all to go out to Colorado in 2018 and watch their first ever statewide risk limiting audit. And a woman named Jennifer Morrell and the clerk of Arapahoe County, a guy named Matt Crane at the time, let us actually participate in the audit in Arapahoe County. And then in 2018 into 2019, we held a series of pilots, or you held a series of pilots. And there was a working group that put those together. I was a part of that, leadership of that, as well as a guy named John McCarthy, who I assume is probably going to watch this out in California. Mark Lindeman of Verified Voting, Miguel and Steve Taylor, who used to be on your staff as well. And there were more than a dozen people involved in planning those pilots. I'll just read Ron Rivest, Lynn Garland, Wilfred Codrington, Andrea Cordova, Luther Weeks, Mayuri Sridhar, Zara Puramel, Suzanne Mello Stark, Neil McBurnett, and Tom Murphy. And then after 2019's pilots, there was a report issued that your staff contributed to. And then in 2020, you held the first risk limiting audits in the PPP. In your whole staff, especially Jen Regan, was a big part of pulling that off, as well as Jacob. And various boards of canvassers participated a lot in those early audits, as did the Secretary's office. Finally, and I swear this is only 2 pages, these regulations owe a huge debt to Miguel, to Jacob, to Rob Rock, to Nick Lima, to Lynn Garland, to Philip Stark, to Jennifer Morrell, Kevin Skoglund, Steve Brown of the ACLU, Grace Gordon, Ginny Vanderroost, Liz Iacobucci at Common Cause, and really, the key organization here is Verified Voting, including CJ Cole, Krista Laporte, and Mark Lindeman, who had a lot of input on this. Anybody who's been involved with this at all knows that without Mark and Miguel, this would not have happened. Those are the 2 people who really drove this process from the beginning, from the inside and the outside, and brought us to this point. And so I think every voter in Rhode Island owes those 2 people a real debt of gratitude, because I think this has been tremendous. I'm sure I've forgotten somebody. So if you're watching this and you didn't hear your name mentioned, I apologize. But of course, the board deserves a gratitude, including your legal counsel, for helping guide the regulations along this process. And I'm jinxing myself. I hope you vote for these, by the way. But to anybody else who lent a hand, thank you. This has been, a great joy for me professionally. More than 10-year process. Miguel and I have worked on this in some form or fashion for now 7 or 8 years together. And, I think it's been a real highlight. So thank you very, very much. I'm happy to answer questions on the substance if you have any.
Any questions from the commission?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for all the work you've done.
Mhm.
And thanks, Miguel, for shepherding this through as well.
My pleasure. You're welcome.
If there are no questions or comments, is there a motion with regard to item number 3?
Motion to approve the risk limiting audit rule and regulation as presented.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? There being none, I would call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the ayes have it. And I think that's our last item, correct? And that being our last item of business, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, the ayes have it. We are adjourned. 2:14, not bad.
Less than 15 minutes.